Good morning, it's Norma Cowie, and I'm very excited to say this is my first live show right on YouTube. Normally, over the last few years, what I've done is I have recorded them and then uploaded them. But due to people saying, well, we don't get to see you live, and yes, Monday night as I am at 7 p.m., but also what I'm doing is committing at this point anyway for 9 o'clock for Wednesday and 9 o'clock for my Sunday thought in the morning. I will be live. And so that we can perhaps what it was like when people say to me, I'd like this or this isn't right. And if I can, I'll work to change it. It may not work, but I'm willing to give it a show to see if it does work and how we can work this to the importance for everybody. Now, I said importance because I looked down at my notes because I made notes today because I wanted to talk about the importance of transformation. On Sunday, I mentioned I had made a decision to do this, to go live at 9 a.m. and for Norma Talks and for a Sunday Thought. In other words, a specific time. So what I did with that, or I should say what happened after that, was people contacted me directly, emailed, etc., and also on Monday nights, mental mind treatments, asking about clearing deep-seated belief systems, which is what I had talked about on Sunday. So I thought it would be a good thing to open this up with an explanation of a lot of the transformation work I do. People hear me talk about transforming or transformation work, and it's been quite a while, I think, since I last spoke about it. To me, the importance of transforming those deep beliefs and attitudes, etc., are paramount if you want to be in personal growth, if you want to grow, if you want to understand life, if you want to be in command of who you are. Now, remember, I was taught by guides for many years, one way or the other. I get information, and that I've been led actually just to kind of go hit always at the right place at the right time in certain circumstances. As I grew, certain workshops I took, certain elements that all began to add. It was like creating a stew, actually. I would learn this piece here and that piece there, put it all together. And then with the help of my own inner guidance, things would become more clarified as the years went by. Didn't happen overnight. It was a lot of years of study, of working and doing and experimenting and figuring it all out. And one of the things I began to discover was that there were three elements for each one of us in our personal growth. The first thing is to identify our issues. And there's a lot out there for you to identify your issues. That I do it often in my tarot card readings and things like that for help people to begin their journey. And if I can, and if it looks like they're ready, we move them into transformation work, which is deeper. Now, there actually is, like, I think of it as identifying, transforming, and then integrating, because when you transform something, you need to integrate it back into the whole. And very often I find in some of the processes I have looked at, they don't have the integration part. So you're still kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, not quite complete, but you're needing to feel whole. The idea is to become whole and complete, be able to access what I call the love force. If you want to call it God or any other name, that's fine. But it's like knowing that loving force that is there, to be able to bring into that. We are like an onion, with people, that reference has been used a great deal. Be an onion, be like an onion. And the same thing, what you need to perhaps recognize is that we're layered. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my journey. I started off probably, yes, I learned tarot and I learned about me. Lots of identification when you're reading tarot for yourself and others. Believe me, you begin to really see patterns. But then I learned, there was meditation and psychic development as well, but what the main things started was past life regressions. When I first started learning past life regression through a couple of teachers that I had, but no one was doing transformation. You just went, it was like sightseeing. We would go and we would sightsee. But you see, the years went by, and I would do workshops and individuals, past life regressions, and we would sightsee. But I began to realize one day when I was beginning to work on another process dealing with the inner child, so to speak, that we weren't transforming the energy in past life regressions. We were just collecting all this information. And what I personally had to do was go back and transform the early regressions, because I always remembered them. After that, I don't remember a lot of them because they're transformed. They're done. They were gone. And I write about this in my past life story about past lives book, because it's really important that people recognize the importance of of transformation and integration. I also, through past life regressions, became very aware, because of the death process, how important the love vibration was in transforming things. So that what I would do is take people to that last day and have them look back. Do you have any regrets? Do you have anything, unresolved, basically? And guilt and regret are the two things that really the soul really needs to let go of before they make their transition. And so it was like when I began to realize that the whole thing in the inner child thing, the death process, I began to realize to allow that love to come in and go into the oneness, to go into that afterlife, into the within the love, and be complete with that. So I began to work at this inner child and realized the element we were able to transform the memories that we had where we're stuck. And you could equate like being like a tree with knots in the tree. So we have knots where we have really not dealt with the emotions, etc. At a certain time. They can be really early. And I began to discover very often when we used to go down, we start now and we go back, is that very often this happened when you're a little baby in the womb. Early as conception, usually around 2-3 months, they start. So all of a sudden you start making decisions. Now, this is where the interesting point is. Where does the energy come from for those decisions? Sometimes when you're an embryo, it comes from your mother because she's upset about being pregnant. But often that triggers you back into a past life, remake the same decision. So now you're in this life with that pattern set. And we tend to recreate our patterns. When you get old enough and you look back, you really see, oh, I keep doing this, or I kept doing that, one or the other. And you began to really see that you're more than like somehow you're not like maybe this person or that person in the family, or you may be similar to in the family because they may have a dynamic that's the same. So through the inner child process, and I still do those occasionally because even in the transformation work, which is pretty broad and covers a lot of things, sometimes we have to specifically go after a really big knot that won't clear until we really address it. It's like saying, hey, address me. I want to know. I want to be heard. I want to be cleared. I want whatever. And so that then led putting those two together, the past life regression death process, the inner child going back into the memories, following a memory line all the way down, clearing it. Preferably, I would like to get to before conception or conception with those. Not always achievable, but anything that you clear, as far as I'm concerned, is, you're winning. So that led to me expanding everything to what I call my, I've got, on my sheet, I've got soul correction sleep, but it's actually the transformation, and soul is part of it for sure. We have so many systems in us. And what I began to discover, when I first studied this, it was very small. Um, but I began to discover that we hold some of the decisions in certain, you might say, parts of us. It's not like all over. It's in and we can, okay, basics of chakras, male, female, aura, emotions, mental, all that. All our psychic system sometimes carries a lot of stuff: eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and your intuition. So I began to work with this with my clients, and slowly things began to evolve into a whole lot of levels. Now, one of the things I began to find out was one session didn't do it. And, and when a person is paying, I know how I feel when I have to pay out money, and it seems like, where am I going? So actually, what I ended up deciding, because I really wanted people to get the work, those that committed to a longer time period did better than one session. One session, is almost like you're still being drowned out by all the other stuff. And so what I personally did at that time, made a decision that I'd rather help people than just, earn money from them, was that they needed to commit to 3 sessions, and many went on from there and did a lot more. But it's like we need at least 3 to get through to the basics. And then I like them to kind of go away and live a little bit and do things, and then come back when the sort of you might say, the next level rises up. But mostly what I get is like, they can handle, they can deal, they can work, they feel different. We have to get through the outer layers, which is basically what I talked about, to get to the deeper layers. What are the deeper layers? Your soul. Where did your soul come from? What did you bring to you? And let me say, some come from when it came to earth. This is not the beginning of your journey. We always have a past before that. In fact, there's a reading I've done where I've looked at people's journey from the time they were drop out of the ethers into a soul, and the journey of the soul. And everybody's a little different, have different journeys, have different experiences. And so it's really important that what I look at is, what did you bring in? Where do you come from? And I've learned a great deal about our cosmos by that way. Planets explode, people get rejected. I know the first time I ran into, when a group of people are being sent here like convicts, like we used to send them to Australia and the US from England. So it's like, I was like, what? And then I began to realize, and often they are sort of, the souls arrived in groups. People arrive in groups without having that experience of being ejected. So there's a lot of things that you arrive here, when you arrive, that is already inside you. And consequently, what happens, we often tend, our early lives then are a result of that. And so it's like we kind of struggle and to work our way. Now, the one thing I really want to impact here is that, as far as I'm concerned, Earth is rare in that not only is it a beautiful, beautiful planet, is also that it's an emotional planet. We have an energy in this Earth that we call Mother Earth that exhibits this love energy, but it also makes it emotional. And so what do we do with that emotion? So you're coming from a lot of very intellectual, very mental planets or spaces, or very nice, it's not always planets, it's sometimes just space. And it's beautiful and wonderful. And you arrive here into all this emotion without any kind of, it seems like it anyway, education of how to deal with emotion and with awareness. And so you arrive here, and then what does that soul do? It kind of keeps repeating, and then we get into the struggle of trying to find ourselves up, and we start peeling the onion. we start peeling the outer level. But for me as a transformation, very seldom do I get to the soul level and looking at other lives and what I call frozen memories, which is the frozen children. Do I ever really get there right off the bat unless someone has done a lot of other work? Then I can always tell. I say, oh, I see you've done a lot of work. And they'll say, yes, I've done this, that, or the other. So what we do now is we're going deeper again. Now, one of the things that people come up and they often forget during our lifetimes, so I'm not going to talk so much about coming before now, but in our lifetimes, we've made contracts with ourselves or with whoever. We've made oaths. The oaths in particular, I find, tend to be more males doing oaths, like male lives. You'd be a female, but you're having male lives. And then it's like you're giving these oaths of dedication to a person. You join an army and you declare your forever faithfulness to the general, all of this. And our pictures into this life. You make vows. You go into spiritual things where you make vows and you vow to be silent or you vow to uphold something or other. And those vows are then represented into this life. And then you have the grandfather of all grandfathers, and that is the Akashic Records. So if it is written in the Akashic Records, and some people have very large books, is that we need to release that. And the only thing I have found that we release those decisions that we have made, written and sown, is self-forgiveness. When I began to hear about the Akashic Records, I didn't know anything about them too much. And I began to sort of learn a little bit more about what they were. And so I asked my people who work with me and said, how do we clear these? Self-forgiveness. You got to forgive yourself for being that or making that decision or whatever. And it's miraculous how everything begins to lighten when you get there. But unless you've done a lot of that inner identifying work and clearing, I find that people don't get there. And a lot of people don't realize, even you go to an Akashic reader, they'll tell you everything. It's a mental aspect. It doesn't give you or lead you, or hopefully some do lead people to self-forgiveness, because you've got to come to that sense of self-forgiveness. Then, of course, our lives here on earth are complicated. We interact with other emotional people. Some of us are more sensitive and we take on other people's energy, especially in relationships. How often I've had to do energy releases, work with clients about teaching them through my CDs and that I did have. Well, now I just send them things to be able to clear their energy, to know how to keep that aura compacted and not way out there picking everything up, teaching how to become and understand your own emotion and how you react, and to accept that and not get upset and suppress, which is what I did for many, many years. There's so many levels here that you can deal with and work. Now, and is there more? Yes, there is. Others' energies. Some people attached like they've got other attachments, which we need to clear. I have one thing on my sheet which talks about curses, but really all what it is where someone has nastily directed a very strong thought form that you accepted. Now, one of the ones I'd like to talk about for a moment was a gal that, when we were going through, and it came up in her programming here, or sheet, I say, that I work off. And I said, okay, got a curse here. And so I look, that's where the psychic ability comes in. I look and said, oh, someone was jealous of you because you were dancing with somebody that they wanted to be dancing with. And the thought came up and you tripped. Excuse me. And guess what? She tripped often in her life. because of that thought form. And so by being able to go in, find where it is, pull it out, clear that energy, everything about it, and let that time period go. Now, all of this energy that comes in very often, it affects your nervous system. So your nervous system has to be realigned and redone. But the one that I find very, very interesting sometimes is this old reptilian brain that we have back in our heads. Sometimes I have like clients and they're old brain. We get to the point where we're down into the what I call the more heavier subconscious things, and the old brain shows up, and I go in, and it's like, oops, I'm sorry, I've got this frog in here. And it's like I put my hand, and it's like I'm cleaning a filter of all things. And sometimes I have to work quite a long time cleaning the old out from all the lifetimes we've had that we're stuck back in our reptilian brain. So that's where we react without thinking and what we're doing and how it works. And, that's kind of one of those things, but they come up, but we very seldom get to those deep energies like contracts, oaths, vows, Akashic records, others energies, and the cursey things. And the cursey thing sometimes comes up in the male female because it's genetic. Sometimes there's a genetic curses go down in line. So, but it's like clearing out what I call program reinstillers, which seem to be in the aura of the person. And it's almost when you change, like when you make a mind, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore. It just goes quick back in and the program's reset. Those are a little tricky at times because they like to hide behind things, but that's part of the things. Oh, and there's more. And there's more. I was thinking originally I might have to do this in steps, but I can see by the time I can basically put this out there. So those of you that are involved in personal growth, find somebody who can also go the next level to be able to transform energy and integrate it back into oneness. You are a whole being. Your soul is a whole being. You want to come back into that love vibration in this earth. You want to be able to integrate it all together. So you're not in pieces, because a lot of people come to me in pieces. And it's the idea is to be able to integrate them. And I have as far as I'm concerned, a great integration system that was given to me that works really, really well and effectively. Now, I have to address one more thing, and that is your conscious mind. It doesn't matter who you go to or what you see or what you do and use. You have to consciously want to be whole. You have to consciously want to transform who you are on the inside. So life is happy, complete, achievable. And that's the value of it. But I know, because I've had clients where I've worked, it's a lot of work transforming. And I love it, but it's still a lot of work psychically, mentally, for me to zero in, see what it is, clear it out, get it, everything all aligned. Then when they come back, say for our next one, I'll say to them things like, did you do your homework? Because everything has a homework. And it's like, well, no. And yet some of the same old stuff comes up. And I'll say, you've got to do your homework. I give you homework for a reason. And I have just not a lot of homework, but sometimes I want them to just be aware a lot more. I can't talk forever. And it's your consciousness needs to be in alignment with what you really, really want. If you were saying, oh, but I want things to be easy, but you're not willing to put in the work to make it easy, then is it going to be easy? No, you're going to keep repeating and repeating and repeating. So if you're in therapy, if you're somewhere and it doesn't seem to be working, don't blame the therapist. Say, hey, to yourself, am I really committed to having this be the way I want? I have no idea where this last little bit's come from. It's just moved through. So obviously somebody out there needs to hear that. So it's like, be committed, be responsible for what you are really what you're saying you're wanting to do, but are you in your heart of hearts wanting it? Sometimes we get a lot of attention by not being who we are, so we got to look at that. What is most important? Having attention or feeling at peace with yourself, knowing who you are, knowing every day that you're working to be better, more gracious, loving, whatever it is that you're tasked with at the time. I know no matter what's going on in my life, when I have a client, that in that moment, that time we have together, hour, hour and a half, depending on how long it takes to do a session, my focus is on that person, because we are all connected to the love force. We are all part of the whole. And that's why I believe the 3 steps, the identification, the transformation, coupled with integrating back into the whole, into the love force, is so important. Just not identifying, it's letting go, it's transforming, it's integrating to become a whole person. And I think that is all I have to say today. That seems like a lot. Yes, but I wanted to get that over because of what I said on Sunday and the response that I had had with that. And I really, really would trust that you all who listen do want to improve whatever it is, and find people who can aid and help you in whatever way you want to be helped. The best thing is somebody that you really feel safe and comfortable with. Now, the other thing is, I just want to thank you all. If you've subscribed already, that's great. Otherwise, please press the subscriptions. Also, what else is there? Oh, I do have a newsletter that goes out monthly that usually has a special in it, and we just sent it out for this month. I was 3 days late, I think. I can't believe how fast life is going. I believe it is the 9th already. No, it's the 7th. Oh, okay, 7th. I don't know. 9th is a real important date for me. So my daughter-in-law and my brother's birthdays fall on that, because my brother's in New Zealand, so he's a day ahead. His actual birthday is the 10th. So I was thinking, oh, we're getting close to that. I've got some things I need to do. But basically, know and be happy. And thank you for your comments. Thank you for all the support I'm getting. I appreciate it. And I look forward to being back again on Sunday with a Sunday thought. You have fun, enjoy, and much love.